The witnesses of the crucifixion and the Qur'an. Witness, noun. A person who sees an event, a person giving sworn testimony. Witness, verb. To have knowledge of a development from observation or experience. The Bible and the Qur'an treat witnesses very differently. Today we'll be taking a look at a witness of the crucifixion as the Bible describes them, and we'll also be looking at the way the Qur'an is attested to by a witness during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. In the New Testament, in the Gospel attributed to the author John, we find ourselves reading John chapter 19, verse 35. The scene. Jesus has allegedly just been crucified, and the author of this Gospel wants us to know that there was an actual witness that can testify to this event. The verse reads, "The man who saw it has given testimony, and his testimony is true. He knows that he tells the truth, and he testifies so that you also may believe." Instantly we're confronted with a glaring issue. We have no details about this witness. There is no way we can verify who the witness is and what they saw. All we are told is that there is a witness and that they confirm the story given in chapter 19 of the Gospel attributed to the author John. We have no meaningful details about the witness. Put yourself in the shoes of someone hearing this Gospel in the first century. When this verse is read to you, it is apparently coming from a person who wants to convince you that they are a first-hand witness and that the story actually happened. It seems problematic that a witness meant to convince you that the story is real has no details provided about them. No name, no physical details, no heritage. There's nothing meaningful mentioned. Would such a verse convince you of anything? For most people, it wouldn't. Scribes of the New Testament noticed that this passage was problematic. Let's remind ourselves of the verse in question. The version in English we read earlier says, "The man who saw it has given testimony, and his testimony is true. He knows that he tells the truth, and he testifies so that you also may believe." The last part of the verse is problematic. He testifies so that you may also believe. This is what is recorded in most Greek manuscripts, so that you may also believe. This was written in the aorist tense of the Koine Greek language. The idea being conveyed here is that the mere mention of this witness in this verse is supposed to convince you to accept Christianity as true. This, however, is not what some Latin manuscripts and an earlier version of the CODEX SINAITICUS, which is from the 4th century, states. It reads, "that you may continue to believe." This is in the present tense. Thus, the context of the verse changes. The audience to whom it was written changes. Instead of being written to convince new believers, it was written to convince those who already believed. Hence, the variant reads, "that you may continue to believe." Oddly, two important and earlier manuscripts of the Bible in Latin omit this verse entirely. Codex Palatinus from the 5th century CE and Codex Fuldensis from the 6th century CE both omit it entirely. In other words, the passage has a cloudy and doubtful history. The author clearly claims that it was written to convince you to begin believing, or, depending on the other version, to convince you to continue believing. Or, as the other manuscripts testify, the passage may not have been written at all, so there may not have been a witness to begin with. The story does not end there. Various commentators have argued that if the verse is authentic, then it may have been written by the author of the Gospel himself, who is said to refer to himself in the third person. So as it turns out, the witness may not be another person, but actually John himself. That complicates things. In John chapter 5, verse 31, Jesus, peace be upon him, is alleged to have said, "If I testify about myself, my testimony is not true." So if this is John allegedly testifying about what he's written and not a second witness, then we're not left with two witnesses, but one witness. And according to Jesus, we can't trust only one witness who testifies about himself. What are we left with? We're left with a witness we can't verify, with a verse we don't know is true, and with an author we can't trust. Messy, complicated. Now let's turn to the Qur'an. In Surah 46, verse 10, It reads in part, "Ask, consider if this Qur'an is truly from Allah and you deny it, and a witness from the children of Israel attests to it and then believes, whereas you act arrogantly. Surely Allah does not guide the wrongdoing people." Let's break this down. The Qur'an claims that there is a witness who was from another religion, the same religion of those who did not believe in Islam, who can testify to what the Qur'an is saying about their beliefs and about the truth of Islam. This is how the Qur'an differs from the Bible when it comes to witnesses. We immediately have more details about the witness, meaning then that the more details provided, the easier it becomes to identify that witness. This would mean that the Bible's verse about the witness was not written for us to identify the witness. But the Qur'an's verse was written so that we may identify that person and question them. Stop. Think about it. Would you trust someone who said they have a witness about an incident but can't tell you who the witness is or give you any details about the witness? Or would you trust someone who said that they have a witness and describe the witness in detail, a witness you can then find and question? The answer is clear. The Qur'an, when initially revealed to the Arabs, presents this verse to everyone who, at that time, wanted to know if what Muslims believed was true. It provided a living, contemporary witness who originated in a religion other than Islam, presumably a religion that was either Christianity or Judaism. The Qur'an isn't presenting itself as a witness in this verse. The Qur'an isn't saying, "Here, believe in me because I said so." The Qur'an is saying that there was a living, identifiable witness who originally came from another religion, who can testify to what the Qur'an was saying. In many Islamic commentaries, the witness is often identified as the former rabbi Abdullah ibn Salam. May Allah be pleased with him. This is amazing. The Qur'an isn't coy, it isn't secretive. It invites you to the truth and does so by giving authority to someone. And not just anyone, but a learned rabbi. In the end, there can be no comparison between the witness of the Bible and the witness of the Qur'an. And declare, the truth has come and falsehood has vanished. Indeed, falsehood is bound to vanish.